Hi, Tara Whitney from Whitney Consulting. We write grants, tenders and business cases to get organisations some money. And I'm talking today about the community stewardship grants. So if you are a WA organisation, you're in WA and you are working to maintain, improve or protect our land, our waterways, our coast, then this is a grant that you really should be looking at. So this grant is run under the state NRM, Natural Resource Management Program. And the aim of the grant is to facilitate the conservation, the sustainable management of our natural resources. So it does that by supporting local groups to undertake stewardship, hence the community stewardship grants name. So undertake stewardship of our natural resources in your actual local area. Now, in terms of the grant, what is it for? It is for a number of things. So they have a number of priority outcomes that they're trying to achieve. And I'll just quickly talk you through each of them so you can see if it's something that is of interest to your organisation. So first of all is sustainable management of land resources. Now this is talking about our agricultural landscapes. This is about projects like regenerative agriculture or soil biology, that sort of thing. Another is to maintain and enhance water assets. Now water assets means estuaries, floodplains, wetlands, groundwater systems, and we're wanting to obviously maintain, protect and improve them. The other is to maintain, protect and improve the coastal assets. So protect and enhance the marine and coastal environment. So same deal, but for the marine and coastal environment. Another priority that I have is conserve and recover biodiversity. So there are obviously projects related to, there might be some declining numbers of certain species, there might be the introduction of pests and diseases that need to be managed, the impacts of climate change, any sort of projects that can look into that to help us to conserve or recover the biodiversity, the uniqueness of WA. Another priority is to enhance skills, capacity and engagement. Now this is about improving the capacity, the knowledge, the participation, the engagement with the natural resources of people like volunteers, community groups, Aboriginal people, the broader community, so that everyone is on board, so that everybody is aware, they're upskilled, they understand how to look after our natural resources. And the last one is to deliver high planning quality that leads to effective action. So high quality planning, that leads to effective action. So essentially to plan. So planning projects that will conserve, prevent further deterioration of the resources or remediate the resources. So any of those planning projects to then achieve the other outcomes we've sort of talked about. So that's the grant. There are two rounds. When I say two rounds, there's two sort of grants available. There's the small grants, which are up to about $50,000. And you can only, the time frame for those are about 18 months. And then there's the large grants, which are between $50,000 and $450,000, and you've got up to 36 months to do those projects. They come around every year. The 2026 round closes on the 29th of April. So you need to be, especially if you're doing a large grant and you have to have a lot of information in your application, you really need to be drafting right now. We need to be doing it right now. You can apply for both, a small and a large, but you can only get one large and two small grants per round, so in the 2026 round. But you can apply for more than one. You don't have to just put in one application. Now, in terms of some tips for this particular grant, we have secured funding for this grant for a number of different clients. And we've also been engaged by the funding body to present grant writing workshops. So we're well aware of this grant and the specifics and what is needed. So I'll just give you a couple of tips for when you're writing this grant. The first thing I'll say is the guidelines. Now these are some guidelines, right? So you must read these guidelines and you must go through, and I recommend you highlight with a highlighter, whether it's virtual, on software or if you print it off. Go through with a highlighter and highlight any rules, anything it tells you to do, because there's a lot. So there's lots of things like, what you can and can't spend the money on in particular. So, you can only spend a maximum of 15% of the project's cost on admin and operational expenses, or things like funding for fencing materials. You can only spend a max of $6,000 per kilometre There's so much, all right? So please go through the guidelines and have a real thorough look at any rules, anything it tells you must do, because there's a lot in there and you need to have that awareness, because otherwise you will frame up your budget, you'll create your budget, and you might be asking for a little bit too much for one of the things, and so you are not eligible because you've asked for $7,000 per kilometre for fencing, for example. So you really need to be aware of what is in those guidelines very, very clearly. The next tip that I'll give you is about the work plan. So with this particular grant, you have to fill in a template, which is a work plan template. It's an Excel spreadsheet and it can be daunting for people. So I just want to just give you an understanding of what it is and why it's there. It seems daunting, but all it's asking for is an understanding of exactly what you are doing. So it wants you to go through and go, these are the tasks. If you give me the money, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Task 1, task 2, these are the things I'm going to do. Now, for each of those tasks, it wants you to tell them how long it's going to take, what's the start date, what's the end date. It wants you to tell them how much money you're going to spend on it, on each of those tasks. It also wants you to tell them what you're achieving, what exactly is the outcome of doing that task, what will you achieve by doing that task, and then how are you going to prove that you've achieved it, how are you going to evaluate it, measure that you have actually delivered the outcome that you said you were going to for that task, which is completely understandable given they're giving you money, so they need to know what you're doing, how long it's going to take, how much money it's going to cost, what you're delivering in terms of outcomes, because that's what they're paying for, is the outcomes. And they need to make sure you have delivered the outcomes so that they can say to their ratepayers, we spent this money and this is what we achieved. So that's what the work plan is about. It seems daunting, but if you understand that that's what they're trying to get out of you, it really just helps you to plan your project really well. As always, if you need any assistance with your community stewardship grants, you know where we are. We can certainly help you, whitneyconsulting.com.au. Thanks a lot.